Hello class 1. Today I'm in my garden, well a little part of it, and it's quite a warm day. It's a little bit windy, so you might hear some leaves blowing in the wind while we do this, but we'll try our best. Today we are going to be using our yellow big piece that you will find in your pack in the paper bag. There'll be a yellow piece with plastic on it, nice and big, and we are also going to use a little bit of the extra bits. You've got extra bits in your pack. You'll find there's 4 big colours, and that's one for every beeswax for the next 4 weeks, and then little scrap pieces for adding bits to your beeswax. And today, yes, we're using the big yellow, and we are also going to use some of the red. I have myself an E here because we made lots of E's or E out of our red beeswax. So you might have an E as well, or you might just have a little lump, but both need to be warmed. So while you get your beeswax ready, I will play the song, which I have to find now in my book. Come to the circle where dreams are found. Take my hand, we'll dance around. Hala, 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 hello. Round and round and round we go. I played it with my voice. I can't find it in the book today. But singing isn't, oh here it is, okay. Okay, so you have your yellow, and you're going to take the plastic off if you haven't already, and your red. I'm going to pop mine under my arm where it's nice and warm, but you can pop yours in the palm of your hand to keep it safe and warm. But only one, and the other one needs to go somewhere else warm. You don't want them to melt together. So get your beeswax in a nice warm place. From the bees, this gift of gold is here for us to warm and hold. Fragrant beeswax in our hand is gifted to us from the land. Our story today is from the Serendipity series that you know all about, the one where I found all of these books in a hall in some little country town. And this story is actually one you've heard before. Well, you haven't heard this story. It's the third of one character that is a particular favourite of all of you. And you might be able to remember this character has long ears that flop down. And the first book, he didn't like that his ears flopped down until he realised that being him was just perfectly perfect. And then you had your second you had your second book of this character, and this is the third one. It is Leo the Lop, and this is Tale 3. And the story is by Stephen Cosgrove. And I'll hold up the picture while I read. The snow fell lightly and brought the quiet hush of winter to the forest. With each passing day, more and more snow fell, until everything was covered in a soft, gentle blanket. The creatures of the forest were nestled warmly in their beds, sleeping away the cares of winter and dreaming of a warm summer morning. All of the creatures, that is, except for a fuzzy, flop-eared rabbit named Leo, who was bored stiff. It wasn't that Leo was always bored, but with the coming of winter, he had to stay indoors more and more because it was cold and wet outside. Leo searched in vain for something to do. He dug out a musty old game and tried to play it by himself. Now we all know that playing a game by yourself sometimes can be really boring. So sadly he put the game away. Leo tried making funny faces in the mirror, but even that didn't make him happy. "There's nothing to do," he sighed to himself. "I'm so bored." "I know," he shouted in glee, to no one in particular. "I'll go outside and find somebody to play with." With that, he wrapped himself up in his favourite scarf, put on his mittens and dashed happily out into the snow. He looked and looked, but he could find no one to play with. "Where is everybody?" he thought. Then suddenly it dawned on him. "They must have gone to sleep for the winter. Well, I'll just have to wake them up." So he hopped through the fluffy drifts of snow. Leo slipped and slid over to an old weathered oak tree and carefully climbed to a crook on the main branch. There, just as he had remembered from last summer, was the hole where the squirrels lived. He knocked softly on the tree and quietly said, "Oh, squirrels, wake up! It's boring out here and I want to play with someone." He listened very carefully, but the only thing he heard was soft snoring and somebody mumbling in their sleep. "They probably didn't hear me," Leo thought. "Come on, squirrels," he shouted as he pounded on the tree. "It's time to wake up and play." Well, the squirrels heard him that time, for Leo could hear them rustling about, grumbling and muttering. "What's going on?" yawned a sleepy and very upset squirrel as he joined Leo on the limb of the tree. "I was bored," said Leo with a big smile on his face. "So I thought I'd wake you up and we could play some games or something." The squirrel looked at him in disbelief. "You woke us up so you could play some game?" he shouted with a puff and a snort. He shoved Leo off the tree and sent him flying into the snowbank below. "Go and find somebody else to play with. It's cold outside and we need our sleep." With a yawn and a stretch, he shuffled back into the warm comfort of his tree. Leo sat in the snow for a moment or two as he tried to understand what had happened. Probably got up on the wrong side of the bed. That's why he was so grumpy. He looked around trying to figure out who else he could play with when suddenly he spied a flock of little birds flitting about. "Hi, birds," he shouted. "I'm bored and I don't have anything to do. Do you want to play?" The birds landed on a branch right above Leo and looked at him curiously. "Are you kidding?" they said. "We're looking for food and you want to know if we want to play?" And with that they flew away in a flutter of feathers. Leo was becoming very confused. He was bored. There was nothing to do and no one to do it with. Even if he could find something to do, He thought as he kicked the snow out of the way. He wandered about aimlessly for hours and hours, looking in vain for something to do, when the winter's silence was broken by a voice out of nowhere. "Who are you? And what are you doing?" Leo turned, and trying to find out who had spoken, he finally looked up into the snowy branches and saw an old owl. "My name is Leo," he sighed, "and I was so bored staying in my den that I thought I would wake somebody up to play with. The squirrels were too tired, the birds were too busy, and I'm just bored." The owl thought for a moment or two and then quietly said, "Did you ever stop to think that maybe you could play by yourself and have just as much fun?" Leo scratched his ear with his big thumpy foot and sputtered, But there's nothing to do and no one to share things with." "Well, there's lots of things to do," said the owl, "and after you've done them, come this spring you can tell all your friends about your marvellous winter fun." Well, I'll try," said Leo as he started to walk away. Suddenly, with a smile on his face, he turned and asked, "Do you want to play?" "No, Leo. I too have to find food, and you must learn to entertain yourself." And with that, the owl flew away, leaving Leo to sit all alone in the snow. "Well," he sighed, "I guess I've got to try." And try he did. He walked all over the forest looking for something to do, but there didn't seem to be anything there. He walked up the hills, through the heavy snow, searching and searching. "I'm getting tired of hopping through the snow. Maybe I'll just slide down the hill and go home." He sat back on his big feet and slid down the hill. He said brightly, "That was kind of fun." So he found a bigger hill and climbed to the top. This time, with a little bit of a jump, he began swooshing down the hill faster and faster, zigzagging this way and that. "Wow, this is fun!" And he continued to slide for an hour or more. Finally, Leo got a little tired and thought, maybe there are more things I can do by myself. He looked around and decided what he could do. He rolled a ball of snow, then several more, put them all together, and built the biggest snow bunny that he had ever built in the forest. Boy, that was fun! Leo went home late that afternoon, a tired and very happy rabbit. He liked playing this for days and days. He liked playing by himself, building snow bunnies, sliding down the hills, and once or twice he just laid in the snow waving his arms, making funny figures. As he was playing like this one morning, he noticed a small green shoot peeping through the snow. He looked around, and sure enough there were little shoots all over the place. "It must be the beginning of spring," he shouted gleefully. Sure enough, Leo had been having so much fun he didn't even know that the spring had sprung. As he watched in quiet amazement, the flowers began to bloom and the snow softly melted. Leo spent the most of the spring and part of the summer telling the other creatures about the wonderful time he had during the winter playing by himself. By telling them of his adventures, it was almost as if they spent the winter playing with him. And though he played with all the animals whenever he could, once in a while Leo would go off alone and play by himself. So when you're all alone and there's nothing to do, remember Leo's lesson, for you can always play with you. And that's the end of the story. So I made a little Leo the Lop earlier, and here he is. Just put him in the, hopefully he goes into focus a little bit. So I made him, and then Frankie would like me to let you know too that he helped me a little bit with the finer detail of the ears when I put the little red in there, and the little hands, because his fingers are a lot smaller than mine, like you have, so we can do the best job we can with our little Leo. I'll put mine just there, and then we will make one together. So get out your yellow, wherever it be, and roll it into a ball. We always start with a ball. And then from that ball, you are going to bring out the long body and the head. So here's our ball, and then up comes the body. You need a fair bit still on the bottom because Leo needs to be sitting on his hind legs, and come up, and then you've got the little head. Something like this starts to form, and it's there that you begin to do little details like bringing out the ears of the head. I like to do that first because it can distort the shape of the head to begin with. So if you do it first, it doesn't have to be flat yet, just have little ears coming out, and then you can shape them better once you've got them out. And little face, so you start to have this forming. I don't know if it's focusing on me or the wax. And then you have the little nose coming forward like that, and the ears flop down, and they're flattened out quite wide at the bottom. And I'll show you a picture of Leo while you do that. I'm just going to flatten mine a little bit, and I'll get the photo of a picture of Leo that you can see his ears. See how they're quite wide and floppy? We're going to try and do that too. So the ears go flat and wide, and they flop down. The little nose and the head, and then you have some little arms coming out if you can. This is where my fingers have trouble because they're a little bit bigger. Have little hands come out, and then you want to have the glimmer, the kind of hint of the hind legs. They don't have to be so obvious, but just so they're kind of there. So you kind of like forming a little bit like that. And the other side. And of course, a little cottontail. You can't have a bunny rabbit without a little cottontail. So this is like the form, and then you can work on the details once you've got those pieces that have come out, those ears nice and floppy and wide, and those little paws, giving them a bit, mine are a little bit pointy, so I'm going to squash them up a little bit. I want his back to go in and then out a little bit. And when you've got all that detail and you're happy with it, which you can still keep working on it, you get your little bit of red, You might have more than you need, so you can always keep it to use for other models that we're doing in the next few weeks. So I'm just going to get the smallest amount of red, really. You don't need much, really quite thin. Make it so thin, like an ear shape. And then lift up little Leo's ear and pop it on the inside there, so that it sticks in there, and that's like the inside of his ear. And then you can do it on the other side as well. There's that Leo. Got two little Leos coming. One's much better than the other at the moment. You can take your time with this. I'm just doing mine a little bit quickly so that the video does not go too long. So when you turn it off, just feel free to keep going. So I just popped another bit of red under the ears there. And there's my little floppy ears of my little Leo. And there's his little shape coming along. Put his snout down a little bit more. And you can start to see little Leo coming with his little cotton tail at the end. I would like you to take your time with that. You can even put a tiny little red nose on the tip of his nose if you want. Have to be a really small bit. Whoop, can't quite do it. Maybe you can do it once you've turned the video off. Might be a little bit big. Put a little nose on him if you want. Okay, I'm going to leave you to it. I will put both my Leos there, and we can stay there. There we go. Please get your mum or dad or any adult that you have with you to put the result of your Leo the Lop on Edmodo, or email if that helps, if that's easier for them. I would love to see what you can create with your beautiful beeswax. Enjoy. Have a lovely day. Bye.